Okay, folks, back again. Continuing to work on this farmhouse, or what's left of it, literally. And get rid of these colors that are encroaching my work area. Good Lord, this is heavier than I remember it being. I'm going to pick this up in a few days. Alright, so what do we have left on here really to work on? Oh, we're back to that? Fumbling and dropping things? Oh, that doesn't need to be there. Okay. Yeah, so we got the color of the house about where it needs to be. Might do some weathering from the standpoint of like some stains or mold or some green drippings and stuff like that. I want to do some detailing here on the floor on the side. Obviously we don't need to paint the bottom of it. That would be foolish. No need for that. But by and large, I might actually paint the inside of the windows, the doors, yeah. And I don't know, the floor doesn't have a wash, and I don't know that I'm going to give it one. It's kind of unnecessary. The stairs, paint the stairs up. And the main house is pretty much done, other than those things I just mentioned. Pretty happy with the results of all that. We got this little building over here that needs a window and a door done to it, and these pens that also need the doors done to that, and a couple doors that are sitting here on the ground. Other than that, it's just pretty much ready to go. We're going to put a little bit of tufts here on the side to kind of tie it into the terrain that it's going to be sitting in. But by and large, this one's fairly done. I don't like how tight of a fit this is. I don't know that I'm going to really... More would not make it better at this point. And obviously seal it. Which is, a job for the garage and the airbrush. So... Middle floor, however... Oh, so top floor is, pretty much done. Don't really need to do anything to this. Like how that middle area turned out. And Kinaru, welcome. Hey Barnes, good morning. It looks better to me than it does for you guys. You're getting a lot of kickback from... What happens if I do this? Well, that's terrible. Now it looks really moldy, doesn't it? Yeah. Natural light. Pictures look a lot better on the internet, on Facebook. So this one's... I might do something here to make these holes seem a little bit less crater-like. Other than that, and I want to do some detailing here on this edge, which would just take a moment to do. And this thing's pretty much ready to go as well. So let's work on the middle floor, which is really where most of the work is going to take place. Left over. We have our shipment that's supposed to arrive on Monday. the things that we sent off with Noble Knight. I'll tell you what, the experience has been positive, but if you're in a hurry to get something from them, that's not the way to go. It took a long time for them to process the stuff that I sent to them. It took a long time to get a label. It just, it's, I think they're really busy. But the experience has been positive so far. They said they were going to give me a certain amount of money, and they actually gave me 25% more. 25% more? I don't know. They said they were going to give me $150, and they gave me 200. So, hey, I can't complain about that. They probably got the stuff that I sent them, and they realized, man, this stuff's in a lot better shape than we thought we were going to get it in. Duh, I take care of things. Especially if it's something I haven't even used, which is the whole point why I'm getting rid of it. So, now, the only bad news is I'm kind of not excited about what I'm getting. I'm getting the stuff that I'm supposed to get that they had in stock, but I kind of avoided getting things that would send me into too many directions at once. What I really would have wanted to get is stuff for the desert. Like, okay, this is going to cost me nothing. Let's go ahead and get some stuff for the 8th Army, and not necessarily the Africa Corps, but mainly for the Brits. And they didn't have any Matildas, which I didn't know they didn't have any Matildas, but they didn't have the Plastic Soldier Company honeys. So that I would have gotten excited about, even though it's probably the wrong thing for me to get, because like I said, it's going to send me into a direction that I don't really have anything else for. If we're looking at it from a gaming standpoint, if we're looking at it from a paint what you want standpoint, then, well, that's not a problem at all. I don't think I was using this brush. You're using this brush for something else. So the stuff that I'm getting are things that are almost all for the Russian front. And there's stuff that I should probably already have in my inventory, and I don't. So I'm not super excited about them, only because it's more the same. I don't know if it's more the same. Those things that there's none of them I really have anything of. But you'll see in a couple days when they come in. We'll do an unboxing, and I might build some of them, but then I'm not going to paint them until the time comes. I got a lot of stuff that I've got primed, ready to go. Oh, I ordered a bunch of 1/72 scale stuff. So I traded in from Noble Knight several games that I've had for 30 or plus years that I'm never going to use anything with. And I said, hey, give me an estimate on this thing. Knowing full well that I didn't want to take them in cash, I wanted to just trade in, because they got quite a few things. They carry some Plastic Soldier Company stuff, and old stuff like old rules I never used. I had picked up when I was designing my trying to design my own rules. I picked up a copy of some reference books from a role-playing game called Phoenix Command. I never did anything with them. I probably lost money on them, but I'll lose money if I have that. I'm never going to mess with it at all. What else did I have? I got a game that I won at a raffle. It's amazing. Some things you don't think are, some things when you trade things in, some things that you think are worth a lot of money aren't. And then other things that are like, end up worth a lot of money. Like one of the games that I ended up winning in a raffle was like a Flames of War strategic game for like Market Garden. And it's apparently in really high demand. So like I had no intention of playing it. Even less since the last couple of games I've played of Flames of War have left anything but, it's just not a game that's for me. So I don't mind getting rid of that. I think it was one of those things they gave me $45 for. I'm like, holy shit. and I got it free. There's some other things like that, I lost money on probably, but what else did I have? No, probably nothing of note. I had some games that I had gotten a long time ago, long time ago, that I was never going to play. Um, Stuff that I didn't buy, so I don't really feel bad about getting rid of it. And just going to put it back right in the hobby, you know? So, you guys will see what I get on Monday. I'm not going to steal my own thunder. How about I tell you what I didn't get that I could have gotten? I could have gotten some Shermans and Churchills for my Brits. And they had a M4A2 Sherman pack, or Sherman 3s, and the Churchill set. And I cogitated back and forth. I took it in my, I basically went in like, okay, I got this credit. Let me start clicking things on the thing that I could potentially be interested in, right? Put it in my shopping cart, and then come back later and take those things out. I'm like, oh, $200, that's a lot of money. Not when you start clicking things. So I'm like, okay, these are all, I know I probably have more than what my credit is, but let me go ahead and kind of figure out what I have to reduce from that. So I look at the total in my cart, and it's like $700. I'm like, well, I guess we can't get one of every Plastic Soldier Company thing that they have that I don't. So I took out some German half tracks. I took out some M4A5 light tanks. I took those out. I took out the Brits and put them back in, and took them out and put them back in, and I really cogitated about it, but I'm not gonna paint the British infantry anytime soon. Not because I'm not excited to do them, but it just pulls me in a different direction. So figure-wise, I need to finish the refurbishment of the figures I already have, and then start building upon those. And building upon those means I don't really need to paint any Germans. I've got like 37 Germans, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it is for this. So, if I was going to go build three Shermans and two Churchills, next thing you know, I'd want to be painting some British. So, which there's nothing wrong with that. It just, I don't want to dilute my momentum. Dilute my momentum. There we go. Hey, Mr. Ben. Nothing against the Brits. I got all excited. I found out what color they recommend for painting them in the desert. I'm not in the desert. Italy, which I didn't know that. I didn't know that that the core color of the British tanks in Italy is not the same as the core color in Northwest Europe. Didn't know that. I never researched it before. Like I said, wargaming is always about learning shit, to me anyways, and having fun while you do it. And they recommend just a color, I think it's 988 Vallejo khaki. So that's different than a bronze green. So I was kind of excited about that, but there'll be time to do them. There'll be time to do them and do them right. I got lots of Brits I want to paint. I have, just from the combat miniatures manufacturers, I probably had 70 Brits. And they have a lot of personality. And some of them are the early war helmets and some of the late war helmets, and I don't give a shit. I'm mixing them all. Just like I've got my Wehrmacht guys. I got guys with tall boots and I got guys with short boots. I don't care. Do I know the difference? Yes. Will I paint them differently according to what they're supposed to look like? Yes. Will I mix them in the same unit? Also yes. So it's just standard British infantry, not airborne. I don't have airborne for anybody. I'm not a huge airborne fan. The British Airborne are probably the coolest of all the airbornes, in my opinion, just because their equipment is neat. I don't like the Luftwaffe with the stupid helmets, the stupid soup helmets. And I think U.S. Airborne have been done to death. Uh, Not knocking any veterans for anything. You guys should know that. It's got nothing to do with. I'm not interested in doing Marines, but I don't disparage the stuff that they did in the Pacific. It's just something I can't be into everything. So, but they're just standard British infantry. So my wife goes, you think about what you want to get for your birthday and Father's Day, which of course they land on the same effing day. Which, I'm an adult. I can buy anything I want. Theoretically speaking. You know what I mean. When you're a kid, you're like, you don't have anything. Or I didn't have anything. I didn't have an allowance or nothing. So you're basically like a slave. But as an adult, you can buy anything. So I'm like, all right, well, what will I allow myself to get that I don't have that I could potentially use, that kind of thing. And I think what I'm going to go with, other than 3D printed buildings, no, we're going to finish this one. I would like to say I'm going to finish the other two buildings that are built up before I get any more countryside buildings, but I don't know if I'm going to hold myself to that. Hey, good morning, Marcus. You spelled it wrong. It's Tonne. You weigh a ton. Stupid millennials. There's only two ways to spell my name. And if I don't wear a skirt, there's only one way to spell my name. Just saying. I don't know that I've ever encountered a female named Tony, ever. But anyhow, so I've been wanting to get a Dremel for a long time. There you go, Tonne. That's right. No tip for you. Wonder what you laughed about if you're wearing a skirt. Yeah, it's true, So now I've encountered multiple games that you can no longer select whether you want to play a male or a female. It just ignores it completely, which I guess is kind of okay. It's just a little too dancing around the thing. Like, for instance, bathrooms, the whole bathroom controversy. Just make individual bathrooms, right? Make a bathroom, anybody can use it, put a urinal in there and a toilet, or, and then you can do whatever the hell you want with whoever you want in there. Well, hold on, maybe not that. But yeah, you can't. So I was like playing this game the other day, and I'm like, all right, I want to create a new character, and I want it to be, and I'm like, where's the selection for male or female? Choose body type. I'm like, what? Anyhow. But I digress. I've been wanting to get a Dremel for a while, and I've come up with excuses not to get one. Mainly, I don't really need one. And I think what I'm going to get is I'm going to get that one that mounts from the ceiling. Obviously, we won't use it here because it creates a lot of dust and stuff. Look, I have a relatively clean work area, but there's still crap that builds up here. The floor, I have no pets. Dust and shit happens. You don't need all that stuff in the house, grinding and shit like that. So mount it somewhere in the garage. It's one of those, almost like mount it up on a hook, and it's just a big flex shaft. Yep, I want a big shaft for my birthday. Female Tony, she's called Zaiton, but we call her Tony. She's called Zaiton. Okay. Why'd she pick Tony? Or why'd you decide to call her Tony? There's no, well, let's see. If you call her Toni, at least all those letters are in her name. Yeah, I've never encountered one. So a couple days, Diablo 4 has been out. I told you I was a big fan. It's the only game I can get the Zyton Tony. Okay. It's the only game I can get the wife to play. And I play it on the side too, so yeah, it's something to do. You know, I don't watch TV at all. So, you know, play that some. It's all right. It's something to do. Talk about some really unattractive characters, though. You got like 4 face options, and you just, there's not a lot to work with there. You know, there's one character that a lot of people are really excited about called the Druid. And the Druid looks like most gamers. Zyton is a common melee name. Wow. Is it melee or melee? Because if it's melee, you could have like you could run an event where it's like cage fighting or something like that in your country, and you could call it the melee. I'm not saying you participate in it. I don't know how people can actually fight and not take it personal. I don't know if I could do that. Get them in a boxing ring and I'll be like, it's pronounced Zytone. Oh. Okay, well, there you go. There's the tie-in, Tony. Pronounced Merle. Merle. Okay. A Merle name. Wow, I bet lots of people say that wrong then. I wouldn't know to put an R sound in there. The Merle Melee then. Yeah, I've never encountered it. The closest I've gotten to is spoken to somebody who's another Tony, and you call them on the phone for work, and it's really awkward. Hey, Tony, this is Tony. Like, weird. Less emphasis on the R. Melee, melee. I don't know. I got to go to instructional school. Most people speak English in your country? I'm surprised. I mean, you know, it was a colony, but still, you know. I mean, that's super handy for this hobby. This is a English dominated hobby. I think. So I had another interaction with the person that still has not given me the correct thing since December. And I hadn't contacted him like 5 weeks since the last time they said they were going to mail something out. And I said, hey, listen, it's been like 6 months since you said you were going to make this right. What gives? Oh, sorry. I've forgotten again. It fell through the cracks. We'll get one out to you shortly. I, at this point, have just gotten to the point where I know I'm not going to get it. I'm going to bug the living shit out of him every week. I think I'm going to email him send him a message every fucking week, maybe even more often than that, just to fuck with him. I mean, I'm not going to say nothing nasty, but it's like, I mean, that's what I do with customer. I mean, you got a customer that bugs the hell out of you, and it's your job to take care of them. Take care of them so they can shut the fuck up, Be doing a video in Malay for this hobby soon. Almost all speak English, even if they are shy too. I might have to check that out to see what it even sounds like. You guys have a cool script like the Thais, or you just use regular letters? I like those cool scripts, but I think they're impractical. I think we should all just use the same alphabet. Because then if it's in another language like French, I can look at something in French and kind of figure out what it is. If it's some other script like Arabic or Hebrew, Greek, no clue. No clue. Russian. You have one order you're slightly worried over. I believe it's Wolf Gaming Store is what it is. You have one order you're slightly worried over. Is it from the same person that I'm having the issues with? The person I'm dealing with is either doesn't have the balls to tell me I'm not going to make it right. They're on some kind of medication and they're not on it right now, or they're not on the medication and they need to be on it. They're being nefarious, or they're super incompetent. It's one of those 5 things, Roman script, excellent. Well, then you can make things out. I don't know what the hell's going on with those folks. I still stand by what I say, that I get better service from UK than from the US. I think the world of UK suppliers. They want to get the stuff in your hands. And yes, there's 1 or 2 bad apples. This would be the second bad apple. The first experience was not great, but they did get me the right stuff finally with an attitude, and I won't buy from them again. And it was like pulling teeth. And I actually brought these gaming mats that I have over to Mitch's house, and I put it on his table. Not that I'm going to use it over there. Not for this game anyways. And they really look nice. Other than the fact that they're wafer thin and they're a slightly bit shiny. The Chinese Cyclone B type smell that they had to them, chemical smell, is gone, thankfully. But I was showing him, and here's the creases, and it's not the creases that are the problem, because you can iron those out, but it's the coloration that's gone on the creases, and they haven't even been used. So but like the color of the one it's the one that I take the photograph of my tanks on, it's beautifully done. The color is perfect. It's got little rocks and everything. also done really well. So like the intention is there to have a good product. You know, it just, that product was damaged, in my opinion, sitting in their shop. And I don't buy the whole, well, if you want it better, you should buy a more premium thing. It's like saying, you know, we sell automobiles, but, you know, we have this sale on our bottom automobile, and you go and you get it, and it's like, well, this fucker doesn't even run. Oh, well, you got to buy a better automobile. I'm like, so you sell things that don't work, you know? Oh, you have a website? Oh, we'll have to check that out. Any pictures of elephant poo on it? Inquiring minds want to know. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you need to watch his videos. Mats are more expensive once they get to Malaysia. Customs here call it a chemical product. Customs. It's the importation tax. Go watch that. What was that? What was the name of that movie? With Christopher Walken in it. Dogs of War. Importation tax. If you guys haven't seen that movie, you should watch it. You snuck in 10 orders last week. All got accepted for one. Except for one. Snuck them in. I don't know where you're getting at. Through your customs? I've ordered things before, and they say, well, you might have to pay something, you know, when you pick them up. And I'm like, not in this country. Well, not yet. Let me go there. Not yet. No, we don't have those duties and things yet. People keep asking for free shit, and I'm like, you're gonna get all these charges happening to you. Like, I want the government out of my life. Yeah, so I'm getting this order on Monday. I'm like, it's literally the worst day it could possibly be, because that's my game night. Okay? And I'm not going to get an order in and not open it and go to Mitch's house instead. So I'm like, all right, well, I may be able to make it. If I make it, it's going to be late because I'm going to film a video on it because I want to see what's inside, right? And he's like, well, it's just, if you're going to be there late, it's just going to be you, then we won't game. I said, well, you won't game because I'll still play Diablo 4. No, without the wife knowing. Oh, well, I tattle on myself all the time. I'm not really good. Ten orders without the wife knowing. I told my wife the other day, I said, you know what? I would like to have a 3D printer if I had somebody locally. There's a guy in the next town over that does 3D printing, and he could probably help me out with problems. Okay, but the reality is, I paint so slow. Look how long it's taken me to paint this thing. Okay, I paint so slow that I'm telling this to her face. I can buy anything in the frickin' world I want to paint, as long as I paint it next. Doesn't really matter. I don't need to produce 20 things, and I'm only getting to them one at a time. So that little Italian village I got my eye on. Actually, I didn't realize that it was $200, and then it doesn't come with a base. I think it's like $600 with a base. I'm like, I got to get a lot more dedicated before I allow myself to do something like that. But that's probably an extreme example. But there's other things to get. If I'm going to use it, I don't have a problem buying it because it gets used. I mean, look. I mean, this thing probably when I bought it cost like say $50. I've spent like 50 hours on it, right? Maybe something like that. It's damn near free. What's a waste is if you buy something and don't do a damn thing with it. Even if I never game with this house, I still painted it, right? But just buying shit and storing it somewhere, no bueno. We pay import tax on anything over 135 pounds here. We pay custom tax and then duty on top of that. You have lots of 3D printer guys in the US. Yes, but everyone that I see that has stuff I want is where? From your fucking island. Every time. Every time. The best painters, the best miniatures, and the best 3D printing stuff that I happen to like are all UK. Hey, I've got expensive taste. What can I say? No, you guys have the land of toys. And really, the shipping wasn't an issue until last year, because the shipping from you guys it was the exchange rate more than anything else. I said, okay, so everything cost about 20%, not even 20% more, 15% more, or whatever, you know. It's kind of a wash, The stuff costs more to get it from you guys, but the government lets us keep more of our money. So it's kind of a wash. No, and I have no problem with buying things from the UK. Like I said, I always have good service from them. But it's not like if they had it in the US, I could just walk down the street and get it. I'm still going to have to mail order it. Here's what folks don't know about 3D printing. Not only do you need to get a 3D printer, but you need to get a curing station. See, I didn't know that. And also a cleaning station, so it all adds up. The problem with a 3D printing for me would be, I did CAD. I come from a CAD background. So the idea of being able to get a file and tinker with it is kind of cool. But that's going to cut into my painting time, which I take a lot of time painting. So I'm just not, I can't be into everything. I have to sub something out. And the problem with CAD is formatting this drawing to print a certain size on paper, right? It may not be a problem now, but when I used to do it many years ago, that was a huge problem. So now imagine 3 dimensions. Imagine these machines being mass produced and where, with instructions that don't read correctly. Like if put in the material you have, that I don't need that stress when I come home from work. So no, I will gladly pay somebody. It's not like I've got to make some house full of Stalingrad buildings or something like that. So one at a time, and that'll work. I mean, there's a guy who did a Star Wars game many years ago that I saw, and he had like, he must have 3D printed it, but he had a trench thing. So you had this Star Wars battle, and it didn't have anything to do with the pre-made Star Wars things. It was like models. So his X-Wings and stuff were like so. And he had this trench that was mounted on like this wall. You basically moved it. You stood up while you played the game, and you moved this thing down a trench, and you're looking at it almost like you're looking down on it. So it looks great. We had so much stuff. He never painted any of it. So it didn't look that good to me, So yeah, I have no interest in creating all these other things, and I can buy things no matter what the cost is a lot faster than I can paint them. So in the same boat as you regarding printing my own, yeah, I can already. It would be cool. I would be cool to tinker with it, but I can see the frustration level being. This hobby brings no frustration to me at all. It is a frustration sucker-upper. And that's just going to bring frustration to me. Like, all right, I got this file, how I want it. Let's go print. Okay, everything's going good? Good. I'm going to go to work. Come back. The hell happened? I had these all ideas of these sugar plums in my head that I was going to paint this whatever vehicle was when I got back, and I can't have it now. All right, start it back over. And then you got to go to work again before you come back. And it's another, no. No, 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 no. We have a 3D printer at work that's not on the level that I would want, because I would want the resin and all that kind of stuff. But it spends the whole time being broke down, you know. And yeah, I don't want that. Maybe 20 years from now when the technology's there, but it's more reliable when it's been out for a while. But no, I'll let the pros do that. And there's 3D stuff printing, even on eBay. There's people that have 3D things for sale that look awesome. And there's some that look like if I carved that out of balsa wood, it would look better. You know, so it's just all over the place. So the only thing is the shipping that's a killer. Like, for instance, you see something that's like, oh, this building is like $30. That's kind of cool. How much is the shipping? $27. That's too much. And I understand they're not. It costs money to ship things, but you know, I don't want to pay double just because of shipping. You know. Over here we have folks who carve by weight. Charge by weight. Oh, cool. Kind of like at the market. Yeah, shipping is the killer. Forget the exchange rate. I got a guy I would love to buy stuff from. He's in Australia. It's not affordable. I don't care if it's an Australian, you know, you're talking about like $50 to ship something. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I mean, if it's something I absolutely have to have, I don't have to have something that badly. It doesn't feel good to make decisions. What's the opposite of thrifty? You know, just throw money away at a problem. It doesn't feel good about it. You know, I don't mind going to stores and shop for clothes, but I want deals. Luckily, fortunately, there's nothing I absolutely have to have. So I'm like, I'll go to a store with a wife. I'm like, I'm not leaving that for that. I'm not leaving that on the rack for that amount of money. And then you feel good about a purchase, not like you're second guessing yourself. Man, I really shouldn't have gotten such and such. Have guys come by the shop and pass me all their failed prints, so I take them and paint them. That's why you painted the 20mm patent. I guess I better need me to be more diligent and watch stuff on your channel. Yeah, you can't reuse that stuff, can you? I guess you can't. I guess you can't reactivate it. You know, I've seen some stuff like on Etsy, these guys selling these files, and the buildings look like, man, I could be all over that. But I'm like, man, how many times did it take to, you know, and then it's like, say it's a building that has the footprint of like this blue mat. Now you need a really big 3D printer to put that. I'll just get it from somebody if I need it that badly. And I haven't bought one, but I probably will. And it's probably going to be a little French building or something like that, or maybe a Russian building. But I'm real particular. I don't want the ones that show the little lines. You know, it's going to take the same amount of effort to paint it. Might as well have something that paints that's going to look decent. Now, I think I think I'm going to have some time to myself today. So if that's the case, I'm going to crank up the airbrush and see if I can get the KVs primed. Because I'd really like to do those KVs. Because I think I'm going to be about done with this soon. Between today and tomorrow, I think. But anyway, so I'm thinking about getting the Dremel that hangs up. The reason why is that one comes with a foot pedal, so that you can go from 0 to whatever. Because all those Dremel tools, they all spin way too fast for what we need here. You know, they go, oh, 35,000 RPM. What are you doing? Trying to cut through a battleship? Yeah, that's what a lot of them do. And sometimes you do need that, but most of the time, you know, something closer to 100 RPM would probably do better. But you can't adjust those things down, so. I've been wanting to get one for a long time, so I think that's probably what the direction I'm gonna go into. So I go and find out what stores they have, right? Because this is where they have it in stores. This is America, right? You should have everything here. Well, you used to be able to have everything here. Now they don't not carry it in any stores. So where you got to get it from? Amazon. Amazon is just going to put everybody out of business because nobody else has anything, And I personally don't have a problem with Amazon, but I'm just saying, oh, what are you always buying for Amazon? They're putting other people out of business. Well, other places don't carry stuff and they don't want to order anything from you. So what am I going to do? Well, I'm just not going to get the product because no store has it. You step up the game. They have everything and they can get it to you like next day. Like, and generally, they're the best price. I mean, I'd rather go to a store and get it, but they don't have it. I don't know that I want to do another building with a wooden floor. This just takes too long. It don't look bad, it just takes too long. And I could probably do shortcuts, but I won't be happy with how it looks. So the easiest thing is just avoid the wooden floor altogether. And somebody's asking me, oh, you're giving up on using your wet palette? It takes up too much space for this. When I go back to painting figures and I'm spending a lot of time on one figure or figures, yeah, I'll crank it back up. But for this, no. It's not easy for stores to have large inventories with Amazon hovering. Yeah, I know. Back when I used to work at a hobby store in the early 90s, people would mail order. And mail order in the early 90s was iffy, just to save 10%. And they'd have to wait 2 weeks for it. Well, I wouldn't, I prefer to buy it from the local store, but if the local store can't have it, or if they have something, that's the problem. I never mail order to save money. Not when you're talking about that little amount of money. And there's a big risk, but man, you can the return policy on Amazon is excellent. And I want to return something in case I get it damaged. Not that it's like, oh, this isn't exactly how I wanted it, I mean, sometimes you could have that, but Amazon doesn't have a lot of game stuff though, so you probably carry a lot of things that Amazon doesn't have available. I don't know if you can order Games Workshop stuff through Amazon. You probably can, but Amazon doesn't have a great selection of like plastic models, and the ones they do are not a really good value. And sometimes there's individual vendors that sell through Amazon. Those 2KVs I actually got from Amazon, but it was from an individual vendor, Winky's, whatever it is, Winky's Game Shop. I think that's what the name of their place is. I don't know. I would have picked a different name. Wee Willie Winky's Game Store or something. Paint. Now we got a place. Now there's enough different places here that you can just go to a store and get paint. Between the Vallejo ones, nobody carries AK, but there's a place in Tampa that carries AK, and they got really good prices. Still waiting on an undeliverable Amazon order refund. Oh, well, that sucks. There's always somebody that has a bad experience with something. I've done many transactions on eBay, and I had 2 transactions out of hundreds that were an issue. And I'm trying to think what the second one is. The first one, I'll never forget. Eat the negative feedback. Oh, speaking of negative feedback, I found a way to... You know how they disappeared the thumbs downs on videos? There's a way you can see them. And you really kind of have to go around your elbow and do them. You have to like add something to it. I forget what it is, but it was relatively easy to do. Because I just wanted to see how many negative thumbs down some of these controversial videos have. And sure enough, they're like 2 to 1 negative. So I'm like, okay, well, the whole world isn't going to hell. Well, the world is going to hell. It's just not going to happen tomorrow. It's been a month. I've never had a bad experience with Amazon yet. But it seems like it's the only place I buy stuff from. They're in the grocery store. Water filter for my refrigerator. Went out, Amazon. It's coming in today. Everything from light bulbs for your car to, headlights for your car to everything in between. I have had bad experiences buying knockoff razors that even came in the right packaging, but they were complete knockoff razors. So now you can't buy razors on Amazon. You're not going to get the name brand ones. You're going to get some knockoff. When I got the Lion Rampant rules, I ordered them and got them the same day. That was insane. It's like I woke up in the morning, I'm like, I don't feel like getting them. Oh, I can get them today if I order in the next 32 minutes? Okay. Done. They shipped them in a box that had no packaging in it. It was just literally a box that was maybe, it was this thick and the box sitting and the thing sitting in the bottom. So it could have just like moved all over the place. I don't know how the book didn't come damaged. But if it did, it's fine. You just take it to the store and just say, hey, I want to return this, and they give you your credit back. Did I like the Rampant Rules series? Yeah, but I think of it as a toolbox. A toolbox that you can modify from there. Yeah, it's okay. It's a pretty good game. I'm just trying to find something to do with my figures. I don't know if it's going to be successful because I don't want to paint more 15s. I want to use the ones I have. And I don't have, their standard size forces are 24 point. I can't make any 24 point list with the figures I have. I can do 12s, but I can't do 24s. And so I told Mitch, hey, I want to play with some 12 point forces. Oh, we could just fudge things. I don't want to fudge things. I'd rather I won't use my figures then, It's okay. It has some, it's an interesting game. And it's easily to be modified for something else. The main thing is I don't want to play tournament games anymore. Because if something is stupid, I'm not going to deal with it anymore. If you come up with a set of rules and we're playing them, and if nobody likes how they're done, you can change them. And it's like, if you're playing a tournament, you can't. Because you could, and then you have to remember that you changed it, and you just develop bad habits. So I'm not really interested in playing tournaments. I'm not really interested in playing games that I'm going to put on at a convention that I've got to worry about people ham-fisting my figures. I'm really not interested in anything that's going to create stress in the hobby for me. I got way too much stress at work, and it's only getting worse. It's gotten significantly worse since the pandemic, I would say. And I don't see anything being dialed back, so I'm not willing to add more of that nausea to my personal life when I'm not there. So, just counting the years till I can retire. I don't have to deal with it no more. And it's a while, but whatever. Every day you're closer. So there's just stuff I don't want to, I still have to, at some point, when I get closer, painting this stuff is one step closer to that. Work on relearning these rules that I used to play that I like for this skirmish stuff. So I need to keep some backup battery power in my brain left to do that. So I'm not really willing to consume it on something else that's not my end goal and do that. And likewise, I don't want to be like, oh, I'm going to learn how to play whatever set of rules. I don't mind playing other things, but I don't want to be the go-to guy on it. Although I don't know that I want to play Flames of War or Rapid Fire ever again. I'd rather just come home and paint with you guys and paint those things. It is not the company. It's just like I'm just wasting my time like playing checkers. It's like if you like being around a bunch of people, but they like playing checkers and you don't like checkers, just do something else. I like the Rapid Fire website. Not the Rapid Fire web. Actually, I don't mind the Rapid Fire website either. I'm at the Flames of War website. I think they got a lot of really good stuff on there. But I think their game is not... I'll fall short of saying it sucks and just say it's not for me. It's a little too vaguey for me. Yeah, that's why you do historicals, fantasy, and sci-fi. Each will palette the next. Wall of Tanks. Yeah. Well, the problem with the Wall of Tanks is, here's the problem with the Wall of Tanks, right? It's supposedly a 1-to-1 scale game. I didn't think so. I thought it was a 1-to-5 scale game, but who am I to say it, okay? So you've got, oh good, we got some vehicles here. All right. I don't know what the ground scale of the game is, but it's not one-to-one ground scale like what I do, okay, or what I'm going to do. So even if this represents one vehicle, the footprint of the vehicle is a fraction of the base size of this. But yet, when they fire, you block your own fire through your own things. And you only fire at the end of a move. So they might end like this, but throughout the turn, you know, they're not necessarily in each other's way. So because of that, you got to line them up like this so that you don't screw this guy's arc by this vehicle being in the way, shooting that way. I mean, assuming it's a turreted vehicle and not a half track. That's the problem. All you got to do is just allow you to fire through your own units. Problem solved. Or at least anybody in the same unit, the same company, can fire through its own tanks. That's all you got to do. And then you can set up like this and not be, you know, totally lined up against each other or totally even, which just looks stupid, you know. You're not, you know, it looks stupid to me. So, and I haven't played Bolt Action, but I bet Bolt Action has some other stupid stuff in there that I wouldn't want to put up with. But that's fine. People want to enjoy it. They want to get into the hobby, you know. Good for them, you know. It's just not for me. I don't try to convert people, you know. I'm going to play this set of rules because I like them. If you don't like them, cool. We don't have to play the same game together. It doesn't really matter. But I don't want to convert. I don't do well with the, oh, why don't you play this? Because I don't like it. You know, it's not for me. I've tried it. I don't like it. I don't like the mechanics. It's too basic. It doesn't motivate me to create more things for the game. Flames of War looks silly during setup to me. Yeah. Yeah, that's all you'd have to do is fix that. That would fix the aesthetics. I also don't know how you folks and everywhere but the United States can put up with a measurement. Because it uses inches. And I am not a fan of inches. I'm really not a fan of divisions of inches. It's just stupid. I know I'm the only American that says that. But, you know, especially with the stuff that we use things that are small. Everything we do is metric. Metric makes more sense to do the measurements in metric, not, you know, go get an inch tape measure to move things around in. The same points face off with minimal terrain. Looks like an ancients battle. Yep. Yeah, and people picking their forces. Everybody's playing with the super stuff. They're playing with King Tigers and no infantry, or, you know. It's a rule set that's made for tournaments, and it's made for a company to sell product, to sell their products, marketed through a rule set. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it's not something I'm interested in. You know, I like miniatures agnostic games. Just like Lion Rampant. It's mostly geared as a 28mm game. I'm never going to play with it. Well, that's not true. I did at the convention. I'm never building any 28mm stuff for it. You know, I'll use my 15s. I'm not even going to paint new 15s for it. You know, because there's stuff I don't like about it. Mainly that you can't have artillery. I understand why you can't have it. It's a different scale of the game. But when I'm playing that game, I don't feel like it plays like one man as one man. I still feel like it's kind of condensed. It's still a unit. You know, a unit of 12 figures of heavy infantry. I don't feel like it's 12 individual folks. I feel like it's still some kind of condensed somehow. Okay, studio, you have a good weekend too. Although I have to admit, the 28 millimeter thing, when you're looking at things like 3D printed, it's starting to feel a little bit like the iPhone. What I mean is, I don't have an iPhone. I have a Samsung. I don't know how to use those iPhones. The girls all have the iPhone, so anything you want is available for the iPhone. You know, and like cases and stuff like that. Anybody else is like that has anything else, you really have to dig deep to find stuff, accessories for it. It's kind of the same way with 28 millimeter. You look War Games Train on Etsy, everything's 28, 28, 28, 28. Hey, I get it. It's probably what sells more. I'm the only person still doing 20 millimeter. There's a couple of us in the U.S. doing it, but I grew up with this. I'm not changing, and I like it. And there's a lot of stuff available for it, and I already have lots of stuff for it. Now, if I was going to start, I might have started with 15s and still do the same kind of game, because there's a lot of variety of 15 millimeter figures. There weren't back then. World War II was still in its infancy in 15 millimeter. I might have done that. I don't know. I got sold on this scale because the figures that were available, the variety that was available, and the sculptor that was doing them. So there's that. I'm going to get something to drink. I will be right back. Yeah, I might have done 15s and still mounted them on pennies. But at that point, the only people that were doing 15 millimeter World War II, Peter Pig may have been doing it. I'm not sure how long Peter Pig's been at it. But at the time, in the early 90s, I wasn't aware of them as a company. Old Glory just started doing their in cahoots with Command Decision, their Command Decision packs, and their vehicles did not look very good. They were inconsistent looking. Even more inconsistent looking than this. One size was just squat. I guess I should probably seal this. Probably seal that one. It's time to seal something else. Although going out and cranking up the airbrush to seal one vehicle isn't that much of a pain because that stuff cleans up pretty easy. It's when you go to prime one vehicle. It's the priming that's a pain in the ass to clean up. Because that surface primer is just goopy as hell. Goopy as hell. Put that there, less likely to knock it down. But the order should be in on Monday. By the time I get home from work, if I make it home from work, whatever that means. And I don't want to be too bold saying, oh, you think you're going to make it home from work, huh? Oh, well, you're not going to. And we'll do an unboxing on that, and then we'll do the individual stuff as we get them. Which is like 7 or 8 different things. Some stuff by a brand I've never done anything with. So we'll see. But it's a lot of stuff that I should already have in my inventory and I don't. So it's useful things that unfortunately aren't that exciting. I would have been much more exciting painting some Churchills or some Sherman 3s or honeys. Well, we didn't have any honeys. I would have picked the honeys would have just, I would have just taken, they would have just had their way with me. Yeah, the only thing that I can think that I would want 3D printed that I don't, and there's a person that that I don't have. There's a person that makes them. There's several people that make them, but there's one particular 3D printer in the UK that makes a bunch of vehicles. I don't remember who they are because there's so many of their names sound the same. Badger 3D Battlefield, something. I forget what their name is, then I have to go and remember again. But this particular printer makes they make like every freaking vehicle made. But the shipping is it's like a base like $25 shipping. So, you either have to order $200 worth of stuff, which I'm not going to, or take it in the shorts for ordering 1 or 2 vehicles. But they make some Cruiser Mark 4As, which is basically a desert modified version A13 with the extra armor on the turret on it. If you didn't need to have the extra armor on the turret, I just buy the S model ones, the S model stuff is great. But you'd have to buy a conversion kit. The conversion kit costs like $20 each. So no point in doing that. Might as well just 3D print the whole thing. Of course, they don't come with open hatches, and I want at least a couple of them with open hatches. But anyhow, that's always been tempting me. But I got one of the desert scenarios that I want to do out of one of those books. It's just all vehicles, and it's got, I think, 4 A13s. Cruiser Mark 4As. It's a good looking vehicle. The road wheels are a little sparse looking. They almost look like they had these extra tables laying around. They had to make them wheels. They had to make wheels out of these tables. Nondescript details on them, but other than that, the chassis, the turret looks super cool. I like cruiser tanks. They're regardless of how effective or how mechanically unreliable. I don't know that the British tanks in the desert were less mechanically reliable than the German stuff. The sand rapes all engines equally. But I like them. But haven't gotten them because I don't absolutely have to have them, and that minimum shipping is just brutal. I don't blame them. It's a pain in the ass to take things. I've said myself, I'm throwing things away before I mail them away. I'm not going to the post office and dealing with their nonsense. Be wary. Some print vehicles with an FDM. What's an FDM? Yeah, I'd want the resin stuff only. So the problem with resin is it's neither the most durable nor the easiest to work with. It's kind of like the in-between thing. So I actually prefer plastic because plastic is easy to, you got that great thing called weld cement, and you can do wonders with weld cement. It's easy to work with. It's easy to drill things out. White metal, You're limited on what glues you can use. Um, if you have a mold line, it is a bitch to take off. If you drop it somewhere, it can damage itself because it weighs so much. And resin just, I feel like it cracks easy. Plastic. FDM. Yeah, you got to be careful with what it is, but you know, in 5 years they'll be using a different material, and it'll be. I would suspect it's even better. But there's one 3D printer that sells things that their shipping is really affordable, and they're from Germany. I don't love their stuff, but they're from Germany. But the ones I really like are from the UK, and their shipping is really expensive. Um, but I'm sure at some point I'm going to get some 3D printed stuff. Buildings more than likely. And we can do a review, and I'll tell you what I think of them. And they rush them and doesn't set the layer lines correctly. They look horrendous. Yeah, there's some stuff on there that the pictures themselves look horrendous. Yeah, I would never buy them if you don't have pictures of them on there. Ah, see, Frogger's awake. God, I don't want to. I don't want to get stuff that looks like crap. I'm spending way too much time to paint it. I don't have time to paint crap. Let's use a little bit of water. Let's see what happens here. Now, I'll be honest with you, something like this thing looks like garbage. I think it actually turned out okay, but you can still tell it's kind of garbage. But I already had it. It's not like I'm going to go out and buy something, you know? If I go out and buy something now, I want it to look good. So one thing this particular vendor that I got from, I did not go in the direction of. One of my favorite manufacturers of 20 millimeter compatible vehicles is a company called Cromwell. Their stuff is second to none. Literally the best stuff out there I have ever seen is Cromwell models. I have a Tiger. I only have one thing by them. It's a late Tiger 1 model. I haven't painted it yet. It's got Zimrit on it. It is absolutely, completely gorgeous. It's one. It's two pieces. The turret's one piece, and the hull's another piece. It's absolutely beautiful. It's crisp, no bubbles. It looks just like a big 35th scale model tank, reduced. It's got Zimrit on it. It looks incredible. Good morning, and frogs, Mr. Jeffrey. Welcome. It is probably, of all the companies that have gone out of business in the last 20 years since I left World War II, it's the one I'm the most saddened by. Their stuff's absolutely amazing. They were expensive. But they got to the point where they did some war games ready stuff. It came in 3 packs of vehicles, so you could get, like, if you wanted to get some Mark 6s for the desert, I think they came in like maybe even 4 or something to a pack. And they were like maybe $30, but you got 4 of the vehicles. Absolutely gorgeous castings. Some of their models you have to glue some things on, but their war game ready ones came pretty much like your turret, and that's it, and bam, done. That's how the Tiger 1 is. Easily, without a doubt, the most beautiful model I have. It's not really a model, it's a miniature, it's 2 pieces. You can't really call it a model if we don't put anything together. Went out of business. The company that I did the game trade in, I found out through probably one of the Facebook groups, that they had gotten a lot of the Cromwell model stuff in. I'm like, man, I hope they don't disappear when I get them, so I could use some of the credit with them. And I decided not to get them, mainly because you're paying like $20 for one vehicle. But even more than that, they're 1/76th. And I don't want to actively buy 1/76 scale vehicles because I prefer 1/72nd because the figures are big. Figures are a little on the husky side. So the vehicles also need to be a little husky or they, you know. But I don't know. I still kind of go back and forth about it. But I think I made the right decision because of that. And they had so many German-centric things. And, you know, I mean, I like German stuff as much as the next guy. But, you know, the Germans do need some other folks to fight them. You know, it's not like, you know, you can't have all the cool German vehicles on the German side. So, and there's some other things I would have liked. I would have liked to have some M10s, some M10 tank destroyers. This is a scenario I'd like to run with some that involves some M10s. And you can't buy the Plastic Soldier Company ones because you don't know whether or not you're going to get one that has the gun breech or not. Not Plastic Soldier Company. I'm sorry, Armor Fast. The Armor Fast M10s originally, if you know what an M10 tank destroyer is, it's an open top 76 millimeter gun tank destroyer on a Sherman-like hull. It's not the Sherman hull, but it's a Sherman-like hull, I think. Don't quote me on that. I've spent 20 years away from it, but it's anyways, it's an open-topped 76 millimeter armed U.S. tank destroyer, and it's open-topped, and the turret is. There's a lot of stuff going on in the turret, and the Armor Fast ones don't even have the gun breech, and that's pretty noticeable because the gun breech comes inside of it. Yeah, I don't need all the ammo stuff in there, but I don't want to buy one of those and then it's totally missing something. It would be like buying a Tiger 1 and it doesn't have the storage bin behind the turret. You know, it's something really, it pokes your eye out. It's so wrong. So, I think I'm going to end up having at some point to get the ones from, what's the name of that manufacturer? That, are they Russian? Or are they Polish? I don't know. I have one model kit from them. They make a whole bunch of them. Not Mirage. I forget what it is, but there's a company that makes some models of them, but they're like, $20 each. I'm like, I don't really need them right now. But they did get a lot of Cromwell stuff. Noble Knight did. I'm looking through it and I'm like, I don't really want. I do want a Vespa, but I don't want one that's in 176 scale. It's just too small. So I just decided, and it's like $20 for one vehicle. I'm like, I'm better off paying $30 and getting 3. So I kind of had to make those decisions. That's one of those things that I clicked in my box. I'm like, oh, this looks good, this looks good, this looks good. And I'm like, oh. And they had like a bunch of British trucks. I'm like, shit, next thing you know, I'm going to be painting British trucks. And that's not necessarily one of the things that I need to have that's a priority. One of the things that was priority was getting the Russian trucks. Because I got a lot of Russian a lot of Russian stuff and no Russian trucks for them. That's kind of a priority. We'll get British trucks when we do British, I got to get an education on the British trucks. But from what I can tell is, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not an expert on this. I'm kind of an expert on a lot of things, but this isn't one of them. Mainly because I haven't really gamed much of it. But it seems like, even though the British used a lot of Lend-Lease tanks, I don't think they used any American trucks. And that's a good thing because British trucks are a lot better looking than American trucks. I don't think I've ever seen U.S. trucks used by Commonwealth forces. I've seen Russians use them, but I've never seen the Commonwealth use U.S. trucks, not in the European theater. I don't know about the Pacific because not really my realm. So you got those Canadian ones, and you got the Bedfords and the CMPs, and I got to get an education on that before I know which ones to get, so that it looks right. But quad tractors and Morrises and all that stuff. Jameson's models in Glasgow used to get Cromwell models direct from the manufacturer who was local. A few of us used to travel down from Aberdeen for the day to check out the hobby shops in Glasgow. Cromwell was my favorite, but I only have one vehicle by them, and that's that Tiger 1. And you notice I haven't painted it yet because I want to do that one towards the end where I get my super skills. I still think that I'm going to be able to improve on something that I'm doing and might make my vehicles even that much more excited about it. So one of the things that I really dislike, there's several things I dislike about certain vehicles, and they had them and there's nothing I can do about it. I'm not a fan of Schertzen. I think they make just about every vehicle look worse. But they're a fact of life, If you've got a Panzer IV H, a Panzer IV H, it's going to have Schertzen on the turret. End of story. You can get away with not putting some on the hull or missing some plates or whatever. You're going to have turret Schertzen on a Panzer IV H and J for that matter. There's just no other way around it. But what I really don't like, what I really, really don't like is Zimrit. I really detest Zimrit. And when I found out, relatively recent, I actually didn't know this, but relatively recent, that basically everything that was produced from, say, a month or two after Kursk until late 44 had Zimrit on it. And if it didn't, it's the exception. That's really disturbing to think that every Mark IV that was in Normandy is going to have Zimrit on it. Okay? Now, I've got several models of Mark IVs. Mark IV H and Js. And I guess if there's any surviving Gs. I've seen pictures of them, and they look like ass. Okay, a Panzer IV, a real picture in Panzer IV with Zimrit on it looks horrible. It looks like it's just slapped on there like they used batter from freaking making pancakes. It just looks like shit, So I'm not adding it to my models, So I got 3 or 4 of them, and I'm not going to add them to them. It's just way too much work, and it just ends up looking like crap. So. Picked up a few models. I still have my favorite were the Austin Tilley light vehicles, 76 though, perfect for the current project. Yeah, I don't mind using them together, but just going with knowing that they're going to be 176th, I couldn't get everything that I wanted for my credits. I just had to make a decision. And I still think I made the right decision. I got so many 172nd scale stuff that they just look small, I mean, I've got a Firefly that's 20 millimeter from Britannia complete, and I've got one that I picked up. I think it's from Matchbox, and I'm going to use them together, And I know the Matchbox one's going to look smaller. Tough, I already have it, I think I paid $1 for the Matchbox one. I don't care, at that point, but spending $20 or $25 for one model and be a little under scale. But they had some cool stuff. Like they had a Vespa, they had a Hummel, a Nashorn. But, it's all cool German stuff. What about the other guys? Well, we just have German things. Like, come on, man. All my T-34 76s are all Skytrex 176, but I got them so unbelievably inexpensive that would have been stupid not to have gotten them. So I'm not anti-176. It was just the cost and that. So I just had to kind of make a decision, And 176 probably work well if you're using Airfix figures, if you're using SHQs, but all the figures I have are oversized a little bit. So my German half tracks, I think half of them are 172nd, half of them 176. They're all going to mix in together, you know. That's fine. I already have them. Maybe I'll trade some other games in and they'll still have... I've thought about trading my Wings of War stuff in. I probably should just send it to them and give me a quote. See if they can take them off my hands. Maybe I'll do that this weekend. Because I'm not going to play Wings of War. I mean, I'd rather play something else. It's not that the game sucks. Just I'd rather play that railroad game than play Wings of War. I got all the original Wings of War games, and they're basically unplayed. That doesn't cost me anything to send them an email. Hey, how much will you give me for this stuff? You know, you can really back yourself into a corner with being super anal retentive. I think I'm pretty anal retentive about things. Like if you're going to buy the Plastic Soldier Mark IV set in 20 millimeter, and it's probably the same in 15s, but we're just going to say the 20 millimeter one because I haven't really looked at the 15 millimeter stuff. The 20 millimeter set for the Mark IV set, you can either make Mark IV F1, a Mark IV F2/G, or a H. The turrets are all the same on all of them, okay? The gun you put in is different, which means the turret that you get in the model has... I've got to find my glasses. I've got an F2 right here. I didn't finish. Here we go. I should just finish this thing. Not there's anything wrong with it. Just got sidetracked. The turret is going to look like this one on all of them. That comes in the kit. It doesn't in real life. You see these little side things here? Those were deleted on the G models forward. Okay, the little side periscopes for the gunner and the loader. Actually, it's already solid on the gunner one. The loader one has an aperture on it. Anyways, those were deleted. They're included on the model. I couldn't build the model and have those on there, so I just have to modify it. So that I'm really super picky on, but you know, I don't know if that I'm going to go and put the pistol ports that go back here in the back corner. I don't know if the F2 had those or not. I know that the earlier ones, like the D, did have them, and they're back here in the quarters. That's a little too much, but something that's noticeable like that on the turret is kind of is just too big an ass for me not to do it. You know, stuff like that. You know, you just have to ultimately decide, you know, what's important to you. These supposedly have the wrong running wheels. This is supposedly, this is a Hasegawa. This is actually was a really good model when it came out, but it always had the wrong running gear, the wrong wheels, road wheels, because it was the same road wheels, I believe, that came with the munitions Panzer 4 that came with the Karl mortar. And for whatever reason, these road wheels basically represent a pattern that never existed. I'm not worried about that. You know, that doesn't bother me so much as the turret. You know, because when you look at it and you go into some place like Scalemates or some place that has either On the Way or Scalemates or Henk of Holland, you find out on all those sites that just about every model there's something wrong with. You know, they'll do something like the Eschi model for the M4A1. I was just looking at that one the other day, and it said it said something along the lines of it's the best model that Eschi ever made. However, it represents a vehicle that never existed. Like, you know, so you can't win. You either get something it's a pain in the ass to put together, or it's inaccurate. At the end of the day, you just have to decide what's important to you. You know. because you're never going to find a kit that's perfect. You know, the Panzer IIIs that I got, I think 5 of them out of them, they're die cast. Every one of their turret hatches, you know, that aren't openable. That's how they came. I actually can't even remove them. It's cast part of the same thing. Are all cast upside down. So in other words, if you look at the top of the turret hatch, you can see where it's got the cushions for the guy to that it doesn't bang his head on. It's got some cushioning on him, and it's on the outside of the vehicle, facing out, like, you know, so the birds can poop on it, kind of thing. You know, not on the inside. You know, some guy made a mistake with a mold. What am I going to do? Just freaking deal with it and just move on. I didn't paint the cushions. You know, they're it's some, you know, you don't need to back yourself into a corner where it's freaking perfect. That's why I don't mind using 76 scale vehicles and 72nd together. It's just a representation of something. You know, you got to make your own decision on what's important to you. Rarely you're going to find something that's just perfect. I almost picked up a model of a Jagdtiger because I don't have one, and I've got the late war German paint set. And I'm not really big on late war stuff, but it'd be an opportunity to use some funny colors because they are kind of funny. But I looked at the review of the SU model that they had, and it said the tracks were terrible. I said, oh, I can deal with the tracks; they're mostly hidden, but the hulls isn't the right length because apparently the Jagdtiger had a more lengthened hull than the King Tiger. At that point, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to get one. You know, I'm not going to get one. At some point, I just got to decide, you know, what's important to me. Like, I wouldn't mind building another one of those Panzer IVs. It's what I call the Frankenpanzer that represents a Panzer IV that never existed. Because I think mine turned out really well. But those things aren't at a super discount. That crappy model is as expensive as a good model. So why bother buying the crappy one then, you know? Now, if I happen to have it or somebody gave it to me, okay. But there's a huge variance between quality of different vehicle manufacturers and actual models themselves. Like tremendous difference. That one is a very poor model. The Panzer III that I was gifted from Revell is one of the best models I've ever built in my entire life. It's incredible. I haven't painted it yet. It's coming up soon when we do the next batch of stuff. But it's a beautiful model. And the Revell ones are weird because they took them over. Some of them are rebranded stuff from other manufacturers, and they'll say that they're in a different scale. They'll say they're 172nd, but they're really 176th. And some of them are their own casting. It's just a real big mishmash of stuff. So, fortunately, there's some websites that allow you to kind of navigate all those questions and inconsistencies to kind of help you make it a good decision. But man, there's a lot of pitfalls. You could be getting something and you get something totally different. A lot of pitfalls. Okay, I think we got this about where it needs to be. Let's go to this small room. This is taking forever, but it is what it is. So I have a model of a Humber. I want to say it's a Humber. I don't know which mark it is. It's the one that's got the Beza in it. Mark II, Mark IV, I don't know. It's a beautiful armored car. But I got it for $1, and it was done with the hatches open. And and the turret can't move. I literally have tried to get the turret, because the person had glued it down, to undo the turret, and I can't. Shy of just destroying the thing in half. So I think I'm gonna make it knocked out as an objective, but I want to see if they were used in Italy, because that's my opportunity to paint them in in an Italian scheme, Italian with that khaki color. Khaki 988, I think is what they said. I'm certain I have it. Yeah, it's just a kind of a cousin to this thing, although it's much better looking armored car. It's a very good looking armored car. But the turret won't move on it. And I need to have a turret that moves. So, maybe I could do it for the desert. I want to do some desert basing with some of the basing that I've done some of my 15 millimeter troops with, and I've been really happy with how it turned out. So, I have it. If I decide to, for one weekend, just say, hey, I'm going to do something totally different. I got a month to get this thing done, so I think I'm doing okay on time. And that's if I choose to take, to take a month. Maybe I want to do it over 3 months. I'd like to kind of set a goal to hold myself accountable, because we would like to get some stuff accomplished. I was disappointed to find out that the 1st Armored Division was disbanded, because I really like the Rhino. I'd really like some vehicles with a Rhino symbol on them. Of course, I could just do it anyways. The Fist is okay too for the 6th, but that was the other thing. I'd have to get British decals. So I'm backing myself into a corner just getting British vehicles at this point. And I'll get to them eventually, just not right this second. I got 4 British guys painted. I don't know why I painted them, just out of the blue. I really like them. Yeah, 3 riflemen and either squad leader or assistant squad leader. He's got a Sten. The other thing I noticed in some illustrations of British vehicles in Italy is they use the roundel on the roof, not the white star, as identification. There's a plus. So I don't like the idea of putting a white star on my Commonwealth vehicles. It just looks wrong. I know they used it. Doesn't make it right. But Cromwell, getting back to what I was saying, Cromwell was my favorite manufacturer. I also liked MMS a lot. But MMS is just too many parts. Too many parts you have to glue with super glue or epoxy. And sometimes the instructions where they go aren't the best. And then Millicast. I think Millicast is still around. Millicast has a lot of bubbles. I got a Martyr 3 by Millicast. It's around here somewhere. Got a lot of bubbles. Doesn't have bad detail, a lot of bubbles. I remember they used to be rather expensive. I imagine they still are. Of course, all three of those are 176th, I think. Millicast is 76th. MMS was 176th. Yeah, so those were all imported by Brookhurst Hobbies. All three of those. Back in the early 90s. Or mid 90s. That's how I got my hands on them. Two people on a slow morning. Oh well. Maybe everybody just had better things to do than hanging out with a kook on Saturday morning. Or Saturday afternoon with you guys. For some of you guys. I'd ask a question, but there's probably not. I think the Matchbox Revell 76 Humber Mark II that you have was used in Italy. I have a photo of a Panzer Trax book showing one being used by the Germans. The Mark IV had the US 37 millimeter. No, this one's got a Beza. Okay, Mark II. Well, maybe that's what we'll paint it as. Even though I feel like I should have a different basing scheme in Italy, but I probably won't. Let's see, does this look Italian-ish? I think it's close enough. I'll probably do it the same way. How many of you are on here? 2? I'll ask anyways. Do any of you guys have a problem with your significant other wishing you had a different hobby? I don't have that problem, but I'm, man, I really wish you weren't into war games. You were into something else instead. And unless somebody's hobby is going to be like, doing honeydew lists, which it's nobody's hobby. What if anybody genuinely has their significant other just does not like the fact that their hobby is what it is? I think this is a great hobby because, hell, they know where to find you. You're going to be in your room, doing introverted stuff. It's not like you're out carousing or doing other things, but. My wife has told me that she's glad that I'm not into sports and, going to games and staying up and, we can't do anything on this day because the game's on. And I can see that. Millicaster from Glasgow. They may even have been the casters for Cromwell. Well, Millicast have a lot of bubbles, and Cromwell has like none. But of course, it's probably just different material, newer molds, or whatever. Millicast are still around, aren't they? I thought they were. I only have one thing by them, and that's that Martyr 3. I think that's the only thing I have by them. I got some really crummy stuff. Look at these guys, and I have them here because I'm gonna fix these things up. This is a company called Houston Ships. This may have actually been part of Lizard's Grim. Look at these Krupp Prots trucks. I think that's what they're supposed to be. They're just really crude looking. I mean, the grill is terrible. The grill is terrible. It's like I etched it myself with a friggin' X-Acto knife. But this will end up being okay. I got a couple things coming in the mail that these guys would be perfect for towing. If you thought that, they wouldn't be my significant other. There you go. I think this is a great hobby. They know where to find us. We're right here. You know? And working on this puts me in a better mood, which he's appreciative of. Some of the other stuff I do doesn't necessarily put me in a good mood. But I just don't get excited about buying things like I used to. It's just like, why do I gotta buy more shit, you know? It's something that I need for a project. It's one thing, but I got so much stuff to work on that I like, things that I bought them, and I liked them when I bought them, and I like to finish them now. It's just a matter of just knocking some of this stuff out. Let's look at the top floor. I think I added some. I'm certainly I did. I didn't just add one color and call it a day. Yeah, we added some white to that. All right, let's get some of that. Barnes' favorite color, white. All right, let's try something different. It's your most used color. Yeah. I like color with a U in it, by the way. You know that. We don't do everything right here in this country. It's... Oh, look at all the mold. Shit. Well, I hadn't used it in a while. Doesn't smell moldy. Well, didn't get good use out of this one. We're just going to toss this one. I'm just going to be a tosser on this one. Oh yeah, we even got it on the back side. Let's just get rid of that. I'm not worried about it for health reasons. It's just not a good habit to get into. These pennies aren't doing their due diligence. All right, let's, I'm gonna go rinse this with some antibacterial, wash this, and I'll be right back with a new one. Probably reuse those sheets. I've heard that you can, so I could probably rinse it off and use it, but probably not the best idea. Everlasting wet palette. Well, unless it gets mold, in which case it's not everlasting. And it's still usable, I just don't want to deal with it. That's a smell my wife can't handle. When you get a book and it's got that musty smell. I said, well, it just smells like England. Or an old library. I don't mind it. All right. I'm actually not going to put black in the middle because we're not going to need to use it right this second. So there's no point in sitting percolating there. So we'll get some beige brown here. And we'll get some white. Stop being lazy and actually put this stuff on here. And let's get a brush that, this one works, but well, you know, I used it for all the other. Let's just use this one. Let's just use this one. And this stuff, one drop of this somewhere for good measure. All right, so let's. Let's use this. The thing is, when you're painting terrain, you're going through so much more paint, like quantity-wise, than when you're painting a figure. That's turning out well. Maybe I'll pull that Humber out, mess with it. I really wanted to paint some British vehicles. I got a bunch of stuff coming and none of them were British vehicles. I didn't want to go out and buy the decals and get sidetracked into throwing money at the problem, but I'm just going to have it knocked out. I'm not going to have it like burnt up and stuff. That's even more stuff. Try using deionized or distilled water. It slows down. I have a whole jug of it. I just don't think of it. Yeah, I do have a whole jug of it. Of distilled. Well, this was supposed to, this is the whatever painter Mark II, and it definitely restricts mold growth more. The problem is I had this thing sealed for who knows how long, and I didn't use it. I've probably had it sealed for several weeks. And I probably should have been using all along to do these parts. Like when I'm doing the building, I'm using craft paint. I'm not using this stuff, so it's a little different, but I should have been using this all along with doing the floors. It's saving me some time. I didn't use a wet palette for many, many years. I didn't use one until like 5 years ago. Yeah, I got a big gallon of that distilled water for use to make my Jesus juice, which I need to make more of. And that's when I first started airbrushing several years ago, when I got the first airbrush that I ended up doing the mats off of. I didn't want to pay for thinner. So this one guy had a video, and that's what he called it. He called it Jesus juice. And it's, you know, part of it is this stuff right here, this Flow Aid, which is why I even got it in the first place. You know, 1 drop of Flow Aid and a little bit of Windex and a little bit of, and mostly that, and then I think some alcohol or whatever. And it works pretty well. I have it in a container that you can, it has one of those spigots on it, and you can just squeeze it and it comes out almost like something for like a science project. It's like a science lab type thing. And I ran out of it the other day. I had it for many years. And finally ran out of it. I need to make more. I need to find that video. I'm sure it's still on there. Search for Jesus Juice on YouTube. Could probably get all kinds of things that not what you're looking for. The flow improver. Oh, that I use? Hey, you know, I don't know what I came up with it. I don't know. You just gotta keep the. You gotta keep the brush going smooth. I end up painting really, 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 really thin. It's not intentional. It's just kind of what happens, and you don't cover up any detail. You got to keep the brush from going across the surface. You got to whatever you do, you got to keep it. It just got to keep it moist, and it helps its longevity a lot more. They always get destroyed. If you looked at this under a microscope, the surface would probably be horribly rough like sandpaper. I think of all the tricks that I use, I'm not going to say I come up with them. I can say I came up with this one because even if somebody else didn't come up with it, I kind of learned it on my own. So this was not influenced by anybody else. But the one I think that's I'm the most impressed with is the hand sanitizer. That just unfreaking believable. That like I don't fret about painting on this thing anymore. Well, I'm not going to do all my painting on here, but like this, if I have another sheet, it's constantly shifting on me because I'm working on this thing. It's pretty big, and I got to be kind of dynamic while I'm painting this large thing. But I don't fret about getting paint on here and being able to get it off. I don't know anybody who's as anal retentive about keeping this thing clean as I am. I'm sure there's someone else out there, but that drives me crazy when I see other people's videos and they have all this paint and splotched all over it. Just forget it. It's just distracting. It's just really distracting. To have all these things that it'd be like, if you turn on your computer and you have something on your background screen that is just, like a mess. It's just, it kind of hurts my soul. And one of my favorite painters out there has a painting area that just makes me want to get put in an insane asylum. I don't know how he gets anything done, but he's a great painter. He's a great painter. And if you spill something, you don't know, is this old paint or is this live? I like to call live. I call it live paint. I'm pick it up and move and put it on something else unintentionally. Hey, everybody's anal about other things. I know people that are real particular about how they put away their board games. Everything's got to be like in a baggie and all this stuff, and then their house is a mess. So you can't be psycho about everything, or maybe you can, but this is what I'm psycho about. I had neighbors that were psycho about their yard. They just not mowing it every single day, every single multiple times a week. Like there's people, I'm surprised, but, and I don't think this is a majority of the population. There's people that, dudes, I should say, there's dudes that get a haircut every week. Even if I had the funds for that, I don't want to go to this. Why would I want to go there every week? That's a waste of time. And the car vacuum now follows me around. Thanks to you. You're welcome. Well, my wife actually got it. She got it from my car. As I work at a concrete construction type of place, and the inside of my car is actually pretty clean. This one, but still, you're bringing in dirt and stuff into your car. It's like, get it. And I'm like, no, it's great for this. It's great. And the thing is that if I use it in here, I'm going to protect that little thing a lot better than I am if it just gets thrown around in the car. So, hey, we all learn from each other, Hopefully I've made some part of your painting, hobbying experience better. We're all in it together. I don't like to, I don't want to do this alone. I don't want to paint not connected to the internet. I mean, I don't know, maybe I'll say something that helps somebody out. Maybe the little bits of information you guys type to me keeps me, on focus, but just sitting there and not having anybody to interact with, that's just boring as shit. I'd rather not do it. Am I an introvert? Yes, I think we all are to some degree, but I'm a social introvert. I want to socialize and talk about the things that I'm really passionate about. I don't want to be just like, well, I want to go meet people and talk about the news or something. I'm not interested in that. I want to talk about, history, the stuff that ties us all together, So am I an ISTJ? Absolutely. But I don't think I'm of the extreme version of it. I do like being social. I don't like being interrupted, but I do like being social. Most days, I don't have stuff to talk about that most people are supposedly interested in. ISTJ. Yeah, supposedly what I am. In case you guys couldn't figure it out. If you believe in that stuff. Well, some of that stuff is true, and some of it isn't, but it's a hell of a lot more accurate than horoscopes. Which is all bullshit that it would... Oh, so somehow all the people that are born around the same time kind of have the same personality. Yeah, bullshit. You read horoscopes and somehow they're written in a way they can always apply to you no matter what they are. They're vague like that. Some of those things are somewhat true, not necessarily all aspects of it. I think one of the aspects of my personality type is that you make sarcastic remarks, which I do, but then you stay quiet about, oh no, if I'm upset about something, I want the world to know. So maybe that on that one aspect, I am not so specific to that. If I'm upset about something, I don't care. I want the world to know. I don't like keeping my feelings to myself. Mitch would be much more reserved. He's rarely upset. I've seen him upset maybe 3 times ever. And, it's about something else. It's not game related. He has his isn't really game related. When you see him playing a game and he says "God bless," that's about as upset as you're going to hear him get upset. But he's almost always a happy-go-lucky motherfucker all the time. Now, whether he really is that way or not, I don't know. That's just the way he perceives him to be. But himself to be, he just carries himself that way. We all have our demons. Mine is I get really tired explaining things to people that don't listen, or repeating myself, or not having to deal with fighting wars that you can't win. That's the kind of stuff I don't like, and of course, none of that is really game related. I'm just saying in personal life, work life. That stuff doesn't seem to bother him any. Maybe it comes with wearing shoes. When you wear shoes, you have all those worries. We're all made of different stuff, I'm very opinionated. I'm very set in my ways, but I also have zero interest in converting other people. I would make a really bad Jehovah's Witness. I would not bother you if if I feel like I'm on some holy path. I don't feel like I need to share the afterlife with you. I'm like, fine, I won't see you there. Or whatever, just to use as an example. Okay, that's looking pretty stellar. Now let's step away from it and see if I agree with it. Let's compare that, because it needs to be consistent with the top. This one's a little bit more grayer than that one. Man, it looks great at 3 feet away. And it looks pretty good up close. So I believe the reason I paint the way I do, or the reason I attempt to paint the way I do, is because I want it to look good up close. If you wear shoes, the worries cannot be earthed. Well, I'm not wearing shoes right now. I don't wear shoes inside my house. But that's it. That's because my house is clean. Why? Because I don't wear shoes in it. It needs to look good up close because I'm nearsighted, so I'm going to see all the mistakes. But there has to be enough contrast between the colors that it doesn't look like a blur at 3 feet away. So that's kind of the reason that I took up basing everything in black. That's kind of what drives my painting style, so to speak. But ultimately, that's up to you. You need to do what makes you happy. I've played games with figures that don't look great and had a great time, and it doesn't really matter. I just don't want to look at something and go, man, if I would have just taken my time, it could look so much better. I don't want those words to come out of my mouth. That's just not me. I'm about ready to paint another background. I really should be doing more of that. I really should. I got some canvases. I should be doing some shit for the house, like artwork. It's just writer's block. I'm sure it'll turn out fine, but I feel like I've learned a lot in the last 20 years, especially the last 20 years. And a lot of it has been with trying different things thanks to examples people have put on the internet and kind of gotten outside my comfort zone a little bit. All right. I think we still have some of that light color again. Time to mix another batch though. See, this morning, I was like, man, I don't feel like painting this. And now I'm like on a roll. Now I got the juices flowing. I'm like, oh yeah, let's kick some ass. I'm really enjoying this part. I do like making things look like they're made of wood when they're not really made of wood. It's just kind of fun. And it's very mindless. It just takes a while. Well, there's lots of painters out there that really like their stuff, and they take just as long or even longer than I do. So it's not like they're, you can't dip your way into something I'm going to be happy with. I have seen dip stuff that looks just fine. I had a friend of mine who used to take armies off of eBay, and they were horrible looking, had no shading. He'd give them all the same dip, and they'd actually look pretty decent. I mean, I wouldn't be happy with them if I did them, but I'm, a bit of a perfectionist. Nothing gets me to improve my game more than seeing something I really, really like and thinking, you know what, my stuff could be looking more like that if I just put a little bit more effort into it. So like, let's do it, And that's kind of my FU attitude with this World War II skirmish. I've seen way too many magazines that come from the UK with things that are painted stellarly, and why can't I get to play on something that looks like that? Well, I can. I just have to put the effort in doing it. I said, well, we better do it now because, no point in starting that when you're in your 70s. Can't wait until I'm retired. So we're going to have to add some details to this broken up floor. so that it looks more like that instead of just being just a big black hole, but that's easy enough to do. I didn't want to work on like getting one room like perfect. Like you got it, because then I want to bring everything up kind of the same way. And there's a door here. It looks like it's missing the bottom of it, because it is like the resin's missing there. We're gonna leave that as is. I'm not gonna take the whole door out. It's there, you know, just a miscast issue. All right, I'll be right back. Let me get some cafe. I'll be back in a moment. I think this counts as maybe third breakfast. I don't know, maybe second. Yesterday was a rainy day and it really kept the temperature down. I hope that's the same case today. Kind of nice not having to take the car to oil change this morning. I had to do that 2 weekends in a row. Actually, I'd do it myself. I can get underneath it. Easy enough to do. You can buy everything, all the filters and stuff through Amazon. Or what have you. Yeah, so maybe we'll mess up with that khaki today. Paint up that Humber. I don't really have anything to lose by doing that. I don't think I dislike any of the British vehicles that I have. There's certainly some British vehicles out there I'm not a fan of. And mainly late war types. And mainly for the same reason that I don't like Hellcats. I don't like the paint schemes they were done in. They're just really boring looking. You know, so I'm not a fan of Cromwells. I just, you know, it's like a faster, shittier Sherman. I'm just not a fan of them. You know, with the same gun. I guess it's like the one cruiser tank I don't like. Is a Cromwell. Is a Cromwell considered a cruiser? I guess. Not a fan of the Cromwell. Doesn't mean I won't build any. I'm just saying I'm just not a fan. Nor the Comet. Of course, Comet's so late it's easy to avoid. It's like saying I don't like Pershings. Well, unless you're doing something after March 45, you don't need to build any. The AA Crusader that they used in Normandy. What's it armed with? Double 40 or double 20? Double 40. And you know those things were hardly ever used in their intended role. Well, Allied air power over France was just overwhelming. Unbelievably overwhelming. You know, that thing was used as ground support role more than anything else. So, whether it's a double 40 or a double 20s, you got some Germans holed up in a building. You have that thing open up on them, it's like that building's made of cardboard. I mean, unless it's a stone building. Even still, I wouldn't want to be in a stone building and it's getting hit by a bunch of 40 millimeter rounds. The two version Mark 1 had a Bofors 40 in a rotating armored box. Mark 1 had two 20 millimeter. God, I don't know how to say that word. I've seen it a million times. Were Ehrlichons. So I was right on both counts. Yeah. You know, there's some unusual. That's an unusual Allied vehicle. You know, non-Russian Allied vehicle. Another one's kind of unusual, and I ended up getting in micro armor, and that's one of those things that you didn't know much as a kid. I ended up picking some up. Like, oh, I can use these for the desert. Because I went to a store and they had them, right? So I'm like, okay, well, I want some desert vehicles, so let me pick these up. It's the only thing you had. That's what happens if you work at, back in the 90s or whatever, when you had stuff in stores, you basically had to pick up whatever they had. And, sometimes they either have just the weird stuff because the standard stuff gets sold and nobody buys the weird stuff. When you're a kid, you don't know. So I ended up buying a pack of Bishops. Okay, Bishop is a 25-pounder in an armored, I don't think it's armored very much, but an armored turret on the Valentine's chassis. So poor man's KV2. I'm sure it was much more effective than a KV2 because a KV2 is just ponderous beyond ponderousness. But yeah, those didn't get used in the desert. I don't know that they even got used in Tunisia. That's like a Sicily and early Italy vehicle. I am an unabashed non-fan of the Valentine tank. I just am not. I just don't. They're like a poor man's Matilda. It's just a more easily manufactured, easier to work on Matilda. Generally speaking. Although some of the later Mark Valentines actually look pretty good when they get the 6-pounder in them. They actually look pretty good looking tank. I don't know if the Bishops were used in Tunisia. I'd have to look into it, but I remember when I was doing micro armor, I didn't give a shit about Tunisia. I didn't want to do anything. Alamein is late enough as it is. So I got these vehicles that I couldn't use for anything. We've all done that. Especially when I was in my infancy of buying wargaming stuff. You have a metal Mark II in 20 mil and a conversion kit to turn an armor-fast Crusader into a Mark I. You have the Eschi version. They were used mostly in the desert. The Bishops? I have to look into them. Not that I want to build one, but... Make good use out of those 25-pounders in the desert, man. They're pretty decent knockout vehicles in a direct fire roll. Especially before the 6-pounders come out. They're really useful in Operation Crusader. And one of the manufacturers, I want to say it's Plastic Soldier Company, comes with crew figures for Europe or also bare-chested ones for the desert. That's pretty cool. I think that's what they do. Yeah, getting hit by one of those in 1941 over open sights, that's nothing to laugh at. It's like I think they're a 88 millimeter gun as well. I mean, obviously they're not the muzzle velocity or the caliber of the famed 88, but still, it's nothing to scoff at. Oh, that's right, replaced by Sextons. Okay. Yeah, I've always thought of them as a Tunisia vehicle. I'm sorry, as a Sicily vehicle. Now, the one thing that is interesting about Tunisia is that you get some crazy camouflage schemes there. You got all the Americans with yellow stars, which I think is kind of cool. And you got all the Brits with the mishmash of all kinds of different vehicles. I've got a scenario somewhere that I got off of, I think I've talked about it before, that actually would be okay as a skirmish scenario. That involves 4 different forces, 2 Allied, 2 German, that come on the board, supposedly in Tunisia. And each force consists of something along the lines of maybe a couple of vehicles and like a squad and a half or something like that. So nothing crazy. like there's a U.S. force and there's a British force and there's two German forces, and it looks like it'd be kind of. I've thought about like I should build the forces for that and then play that, but maybe I will do that at some point. You know, when I get into that period. But I think the Americans have like a Lee and like a Jeep with a 37 millimeter gun and like a squad of infantry or something like that. Maybe a half track or something like that with a squad of infantry. And the British have like tanks that wouldn't serve together, but it doesn't matter. It would have they had like a Valentine and two Crusader 3s with 6-pounders and like some infantry as well or something like that. Maybe they got a quad carrier. Those quad carrying trucks are really cute. I like them. They got some panache, and I give big points to cute vehicles, even though they're not ineffective. And I don't think the quad tractors were ineffective, but there's some vehicles that are cute that are very ineffective, but they're still cute. And I think the Germans, they got one of the force has got a couple Mark IVs or a Mark III and a Mark IV, and then another one has like a Tiger 1 and something or another. But there's only one Tiger on the whole thing, so I think it'd be kind of cool to have a little scenario like that. Picked it out from a magazine that I got from. I had a subscription to a thing called MagWeb in the early 2000s, which was, I forget what you could have. It was like some monthly subscription. It was a website you could go and you can access all kinds of different magazines that are older and not readily available over the counter, and it allows you to look at the articles and stuff like that. And I downloaded several articles, and that was one of them that I downloaded. I was looking for skirmish type stuff, and shit, that was 25 years ago or something like that. I forget who the hell made it. It was rules agnostic. It was not specifically for a rule set. Sextants. Plastic Soldier Company makes sextants. Their vehicles seem really, really durable. I'm a big fan of Plastic Soldier Company. They're not perfect. The plastic they use, I'm a big fan of their plastic. It's just hard enough and just bendy enough that it's just perfect. Their vehicles are really sturdy. Minimum of parts. Sure, some things may not be accurate on them, as there is with every model. They may not be accurate. But I'm a big fan of them, so. I just wish there's some things that are available in 15s that aren't available in 20s, like their JSs. They make some JSs, which you can make, I think, you can make JS2s, the 1s, and KV85s out of them, or something like that, out of the same thing. It's just cool to have all those options. So I got some vehicles coming with some options as well on Monday. I'm actually surprised about working on the World War II stuff is that there is so much of a split in the community when it comes to basing your vehicles. And I see the merits of both. I decided to base mine because some vehicles I have to be based or they're going to be fall apart. So at that point, do I want some of my vehicles based and some not? And I'm like, no. I want them all to be based or not. And I don't try to do a really big base, but it allows you to put a little bit of the terrain that the vehicle is serving in on that actual base. And I think it makes it look diorama-like light. And I like it. Plus, they're magnetized, so if I have to take them somewhere, they're not sliding all over the place. But there's some people that are just like Nazis about, oh my God, I can't believe you put it. You know, there's some things that I wish I hadn't done. There's some situations where I wish I hadn't done them, okay? Like if I've got, and I'll give you one of the examples right here. But I still think I made the right decision because I had to make a decision. If you've got like this house right here, like we're working on. Whoops. Good Lord. Let's just not even try to put that on until it's done. And you got a mission, like we're going to have. That you've got to capture this vehicle and drive off with it. It looks kind of stupid being on a grass terrain base when it's inside this built up area. But by and large, this thing's going to be in the country on the grass mat, not in here. You know, I would rather it not be on that base in this situation. But that's it. You know, the figures are going to have to be on bases. Some things like motorcycles, stuff like that. Now, there's some things I'm not going to put on bases. I don't think I'm going to put my anti-tank guns on bases. I think they're going to be loose. The figures will all, the crew members will all be like this. You know, so you could say you're attacking some anti-tank gun and you could snipe the crew members. Well, take the guy off, you know, you just killed him, you know. So this is the only situation where I'm not loving the fact that they're on a base. But this is it. I mean, if the vehicle's out here, I'd rather it be on a base. Doesn't look right to me on base. Good, I'm glad you approve. If you're basing your figures, then you must consider basing your vehicles, if only to make them look right. Yeah. Well, some vehicles I have to put on bases. I have to, like, they're just too, they're too fall aparty, delicate. You know, so at that point, I don't want some of my vehicles not on bases and some on, and it just helps tie them into what they're in, you know, and it's too late now. I've already got like 100 vehicles or so, rounding up. So I'm not changing my mind, but that's, some people are like Nazis. I can't believe you paid the base. I mean, come on, man. You know? I try not to make them really big. I rounded the corners to make them a little bit more. It's a game piece, you know? It's a game piece. So you're always going to find people that are doing something you don't like. They're either playing a game you don't like, or a scale you don't like, or use a manufacturer you don't like. I mean, there's people that are like, I can find them that they like playing my rule set that I use. They like the scale that I use, but then maybe they're a fan of a manufacturer that I just really dislike. You're never going to find the perfect person that agrees with you. So just do your own thing and don't worry about it, you know. There's lots of manufacturers that I don't care for in 20 millimeter scale. Not really a scale, but you know what I mean. Calling 20 millimeter a scale isn't a very big sin, is it? It's not like, you know, calling horse troops cavalry or calling magazines clips. I know it's not a scale, a true scale per se. And that's fine because not everybody's figures are exactly the same size either. Bought quite a few goats and sheeps this week for use as scatter. All are getting based. There you go. I got some tractors. I got some tractors that I picked up, and they're 187 scale, HO scale, that I'm going to use for scatter terrain. You know, I decided to camouflage all those vehicles because I'm thinking, if you're the fucking Germans and you captured France and held it for 4 years, every damn vehicle that's a French vehicle or that was left over, you're commandeering. I mean, why would you let people in France have a freaking vehicle? You're freaking Nazis, for God's sakes. You're not going to give them the freedom of having a vehicle. And even if they have the vehicle, where the hell are they going to get the fuel? So I just figured I'm going to make all the civilian vehicles commandeerish. Now I may actually take one of them and put FFI markings on it. I haven't decided to do that yet. I can do that at a later date, but that's why I made them camouflaged. I figured they would be probably, commandeered by, the military or whatever at some point, and then they just got captured back or what have you. But why would Nazis let, regular people have a car? They're going to commandeer every single one of those things. And they're lucky if any of them are left in France. They'll probably get sent out to Russia where they can all break down and not have spare parts for those things either. Goats and sheep, yeah. Yeah, one of the manufacturers that I have a fair amount of figures of, and I really dislike, is FAA. I don't like their faces at all. I'm probably going to paint some of them. They have some interesting figures. They have like a housewife scolding somebody. I got one of those. I think they came in like a bomber set. It's like a set of that has like German bomber crews bailed out over England. So it's got like a couple bomber guys on there, and I think a priest. I think I have a priest, a scolding woman. Should paint her up. Mountain of a lady. I think it's a big figure. I just saw her the other day. I should have pulled her out. My civvies. But they make a lot of 3D printed civilian stuff now that's really cool. Like for scenarios. Like I said, I'm going to play this. The scenarios I'm going to put together of this are going to be more like commando type operations, at least to begin with. Not necessarily with commandos, but kind of that thing, small mission. Go in and somewhere in that house there's a spy. You need to break him out or something like that, It's not going to play something like, all right, here's 6 Panthers. You got 6 Panthers. Come on, man. That's just a different type of game. So I'm going to take it easy with the players and myself, learning how to play, really small unit actions before you dive into the other stuff. There was a video game I was mentioning last week called Hidden and Dangerous, and that's what you were. You managed a commando team. I think you were Brits in every one of the scenarios. You were just a set of British commandos, and sometimes you would get other people that would help out, and you could pick up weapons. You could like shoot Germans and shit like that, and like crawl over and then take their weapons. So if you ran out of ammo for your Sten, you'd have a Mauser to fall back on, and you'd have. I don't remember what the missions are. I probably should look it up and see if there may be some good value in that. I'm gonna write that down. The only mission I can remember was there's ones like you had to capture a bridge, and there's one you were fighting on the Tirpitz. The Tirpitz alternative reality got sunk, but it was still afloat. It didn't capsize over in this particular game. She was listing like at 30 degrees or something like that, and you had to go on this ship. It was obviously the Tirpitz. I remember it, and you had to fight to get the code book or something off of it. It was something like that, but I thought it was really unique. It had a lot of ambiance. So, where's my homework assignment paper? I don't want to write it on that. Just write it on something that's hidden and dangerous. I'm sure somebody has a website where it has old things. It might even be available for free. Not that it would run worth a damn. Hidden and Dangerous. Not that it would be worth playing. Some of those. I'm not a much of a retro gamer. You won't see me going back and, hey, let's play Civilization 1. Yeah, no, that's not me. I've done my time. I don't have to have the latest graphics, but I don't want to play a game that it looks like, did I put my glasses on or not? That kind of thing. It's that blurry. Let's see. I actually have fond memories of this game. Hidden. I think I've got this. There was a second version of it. And it didn't work worth a damn on a computer. That's the problem with computer games. Sometimes they're just not programmed correctly, and they don't work well no matter what your hardware requirements you have. Hidden and Dangerous. It's available on Steam for $5.99. It's a 1999 tactical shooter video game developed by Illusion Softworks and published by Take-Two Interactive and Talonsoft for Windows. Okay, and these guys look like they're some kind of Slavs that created it. And I don't mean that ugly. I just mean that's what it looks like by their names. Czech? That's what I was thinking. I thought they were Czechs. It's available on the Dreamcast and the PC. Czech Republic, yep. Okay, they had those little symbols on there. The player controls a 4-man SAS team executing a number of important missions during World War II. The game features soldier selection prior to each mission. A comprehensive loadout sequence is also available where players have access to a variety of weapons and equipment. Mission briefings outline objectives, intelligence on enemy strengths, and recommended plans of advance. During missions, players can command directly by toggling through the soldiers in their squad. Voice commands are a tactical map which allows for real-time control and planned maneuvers once the map is exited. Missions include sabotage, search and destroy, POW rescue, and resistance aid. The game features 6 campaigns taking place in Italy, Yugoslavia, Germany, Norway, the North Sea, and Czechoslovakia. 3 additional campaigns were added with the add-on release later. Despite certain historical liberties taken with actual SAS missions and timelines, the game retains a degree of historical accuracy and intense atmosphere, including realistic wounding, as squad members can be heavily wounded or killed by even brief enemy contact. Yeah, and it has weather too, and visibility and shit. I remember really, really liking it. Man, I need to look into this. See what kind of scenarios I can. 4-man team. That'd be cool. I think 3 people is good. I mean, have each person run 3 folks. I think that's about right. For starters. See what these screens look like. Oh, they look devoid of detail by today's standards. You got these angular faces that remind you of what's her face? Tomb Raider, the first edition. Man, the freaking British paratrooper smocks look great. That's a great looking uniform. And they have a Hidden Dangerous too. Cool. Well, I don't want to play out with the crappy graphics, but there's got to be probably like a breakdown of different scenarios. Probably get some ideas from it. Anyways, good. Got my juices going. CA are doing a new Total War game, Pharaoh. That will be so tempting. I don't know. The last 2 that I bought of them when I got the new computer was the Chinese one, which I'm a fan of that period. I'm a fan of whatever the hell that is. And the Rome Total War 2. And the Chinese one is so complicated. There's so many things to do. And I just got bored of the tactical battles. They became too easy. All the battles break down to hold a line, generally you're mounted, but sometimes your infantry, if they're really mobile, hold them, flank them and rape them in the ass, and then as they break, you chop them to bits, and you get all kinds of experience, and then just rinse and repeat. And just a little too much as far as that goes. And I really hate the naval combat. I am no good at it. I just absolutely suck at the naval combat. So I have played it some, and then just end up playing the strategic game. And I'm a tactical guy. I want to play the tactical battles, but somehow they bore me because they're all the same. So yeah, I won't be getting the Pharaoh one because that's one of some games you buy and you get your money's worth and more out of. Okay, I would say in my case it would be the Diablo series. It's the only series that I have played since its inception. Every one of the games, I had played every one of the characters and finished the game with every one of the characters and went up through all the difficulty levels and finished the game with all the difficulty levels, all the characters. It's the only game I've done that with. Now, Diablo 3 had a thing called torment levels, and there's no way you can go through them all because they're excruciatingly difficult, where you have to have the exact right gear or whatever. But with the exception of that, and I've done some of them, I just obviously have not done them all the way through, but I think that's a good value when you play the game multiple times, going up in difficulty level, and play all the different characters. I'm like, I only play this, or I only play the barbarian. That's a good value game. Rome Total War, or the Rome Total War series, I usually just stick to one nation. I pick the one, and then I eventually get bored before I'm even done with it. The Medieval Total War 2, when I had it on the old computer, I played Spain. And once I kicked everybody's ass with Spain, I'm like, I think I played the Normans a little bit. And that was it. I didn't want to play all the other ones. It just seemed like a lot of the same rinse and repeat. It was a little too grindy. I guess if the game is grindy, but you find cool stuff along the way, I can deal with it. But if you don't find cool stuff along the way, I'm just not a very grindy type of person. But the Chinese one, I played very little. I bought it. Didn't get a good value because I still have it. I actually took it off my computer because my computer is awesome, but it has very limited space on it. So I can't have every game I own on the computer. And same thing with the Rome one. But the Rome one, the way I like to play that one actually is when you get into the Republic period, I will actually build them to the same proportion that they are in DBA. So I'll have and I'll that's how I'll fight them. I'll fight them with the Hastati in the front and the Principes in the middle, and the other guys and the Triarii in the back. So I'll do like a 3-3-2 proportion when I buy them, and I move the armies together and I set them up in checkerboard. I don't know if that's the best thing, but that's how I play the game. So I enjoy playing it that way. But there's just so many political things to do that it just gets overwhelming. It just gets overwhelming, and some games are better value than others, and yeah. So the Chariot one, it's just not my period, and I haven't gotten. If I really want to play Rome Total, the Total War series, I've got enough stuff to draw on. But one of the things that kind of bugs me is that if you play some of these Total War games, because of the nature of combat, capturing things, and improving the cities that you already have, many of the scenarios start with your cities basically being in the Stone Age. In other words, they start off with your cities you're a lot less developed than they would be in real life. So you're not learning anything. There's not a good value of learning and playing from my standpoint. One of the most fun mods I ever played was the original Rome Total War. There was two mods. One was called Rome Total Realism, and the other one was called Europa Barbarorum. And Europa Barbarorum was really, really difficult. And it was really difficult because you might start with a nation with an army, but you didn't have the infrastructure to maintain it. So, like, for instance, I like to play Pyrrhus because I'm a Pyrrhus fan, and he has elephants, and nobody else around him does, and it makes him kind of unique. He's kind of a Swiss Army knife. He's got a little bit of everything. He's got this really expensive army to maintain at the beginning of the game, but no infrastructure because your towns are still like a level 1 type thing. So it was a real challenge having this economy that basically went in the hole by thousands of gold every turn, that eventually you had to capture enough stuff and take enough casualties that they would balance out and finally get into the black on your. So it was kind of a challenge. So basically you've got these elephants. You have 1 unit of elephants. You can't buy any more of for a long time, because first of all, even if you had the cash, which you don't, because literally, like, I think the first turn you go into the negative, you can't buy anything. You have to husband them back like they're like something you're never going to get more of. And your army's really good, but you have no way to replace them with anything of that quality. Like if you replace them with pikemen, you're going to get the lowest pikemen because you have a level 1 city that you haven't spent any money. You basically have no infrastructure for it. So it was kind of an interesting challenge trying to get ahead with them. But yeah, I think with Europa Barbarorum, the only nations I played were Rome and Pyrrhus. But yeah, it was a challenge. Yeah, it was a hell of an improvement off the basic game. So, and I got the Attila one too. They're fun as a side gig while you're painting that army. Like I was playing Rome Total War Attila a little bit while I was painting my Huns. Like, I feel like playing something. Well, let's play with some Huns, And it's mildly entertaining, Kind of hard to get excited about Huns or Mongols or stuff like that. I'm too Western-centric. I'm sorry. It's just how it is. There's just some nations I find more interesting than others, and I don't apologize for it. Although I did say I'm sorry, so does that count as an apology? Well, not really. It's just how it is, There's some nations I'd rather play than others, I'm not a fan of barbarian type nations, whether they're Mongol, Hunnic, or I'm just not a fan. So yeah, I watched a couple videos on how to get better with a naval combat, and in the second one, it's hard. It's really, really hard. And I'm a naval combat guy, just not for that period. Pharaoh may be inspirational planning an Egyptian army at some point. What time period does it cover? Can you paint? Can you play Assyrians and make lampshades out of people? Oh shit! Are the Egyptians going to be black in that? Well, some dynasties should. But I'm just talking about, New Kingdom. Kushites would be. What's it called? Total War Pharaoh. Are they going to tell you which pharaoh, or is it going to be like the Bible? Let's go to home. Initial release in October. Set New Kingdom of Egypt and its surrounding areas near the late Bronze Age collapse. I think it's a good period to do it in. There's nothing wrong with that. Maybe people to learn about, maybe they'll make that time period a lot more interesting than people give it credit for. I mean, I like all the Egyptian hieroglyph mythology crap. I mean, who doesn't? Dynasty Edition. Who buys all that extra stuff? What is it? Microtransactions? I am not a... The microtransactions don't work on me. Yeah. Dynamic battles. Well, I would hope so. I see some sea peoples there. Some of the stuff looks really good. I just want to play. I want to know if you can play somebody other than Egypt. Ramses, which one? There's some other. I'd want to play the Assyrians and do really nasty things to people. Yeah. Make like really bad choices. Like come in and just level the city. Instead of like, because usually when I play those kind of games, I'm very benevolent. Like, okay, I want to conquer you, but we want to use you to have more infrastructure for our society. No, not as the Assyrians. Go in there and just level everybody. Enslave some people? No, everybody. Just enslave everybody. I got an Assyrian army to paint. If I ever get back to... I should probably pull out Impetus and fool around with that, but I just don't have the impetus for it. It's gonna take time away from this, and this is what I'm really enjoying. So the line rampant isn't bad because I got Randy on board. He really enjoyed it. He has the rules, and we kind of work through it together. Mitch will pretty much play anything. I just want to do some 12-point battles. I can use my Irish. I can use a unit of heavy infantry, a unit of skirmishers, and a unit of light horse. Is that 12? 4. 2 is 8. No, I still think I need to do something else. I'm going to fudge something else. But it don't necessarily have to be balanced battles. Just like, let's just roll some dice, man. Hittites would be cool too. I really enjoyed painting my Amorites. I really did. I enjoyed painting them and they turned out really well. Might be one of those things that you can only play the Egyptians through the actual storyline. Everybody else will just have to kind of pick up campaigns. I doubt there's that type of depth of information or work going into that. You know, like I just know how those things normally go. But I'm not a fan of these microtransaction things. They never work on me. I never buy all the extra stuff. You know, this game costs $60, but if you want to play it early, you got to pay an extra $30, and you get like a special armor, the look of a certain armor, which you'll probably never use in the game. Like that shit doesn't work on me. Just tell me how much the game is. I guess it works on a lot of people. I know a lot of people that have played game World of Tanks and stuff like that, which is a free game, but they've actually spent real money to get real vehicles. I'm like, just earn them, dude. I don't get that. But enough people must do it. They must be spending somebody else's money. It must be some kid that's just got some rich kid with unlimited funds. You know, they have their own credit card or they don't have to pay for it. You finished the first batch of Assyrian slingers. Really happy with them. Yeah. Well, I'm not getting rid of my 15 millimeter figures that are unpainted. I may go back to it at some point. But not how I was doing it before, where I got to have these guys painted for a certain event. Nope. Those days are over. And I don't want to take projects that, you know, if I'm building like a DBA type army, that's half of a year that I basically have to do and work on just them. I just don't feel like doing just like this, you know. If I feel like finishing one of the KVs, I just do one of the KVs. Not like, well, I can't do that because I got to have this done by a certain day. Screw that. I ain't got time for that. Yeah, the Assyrians I have are museum miniatures, the old school ones. And they're kind of quirky looking, but I think that they, especially the horses on the chariots, they look like greyhounds. They're kind of quirky looking. I don't mind them. Got them 15 years ago. Thing about Assyrians is sometimes they look really silly. They got them really tall socks with them crazy striped things. Like, well, you don't have to paint them that way, but red and blue, and they touch each other. Isn't that weird? You get used to doing so much heraldry, and it's hard to put red and blue next to each other. And there's got to be like a yellow or a white between them. You get that heraldry born into you. Now we're almost done with the floor. I don't know if I'm going to put another color on top of this one. You've left the socks out. None are sculpted in. Oh, there you go. Yeah, only the super elite ones would have that anyways. Could save a lot of time by just painting figures barefoot, you know? So if I'm personally going into battle, the first thing I'm wearing is underwear. Next thing I'm going to wear is freaking shoes. I wouldn't make a very good naked Gaul. What, no shoes and no clothes? Nope. That's impractical as hell. I'm not a fast runner, but I bet I can run faster with clothes on. Just saying. Okay, I'm gonna need to use the restroom. Let's compare this to the other wood that's next to it. Now, they're close in style. This one's grayer. Great bag. Okay, folks, I'm gonna call this one a wrap. I got half a mind to leave this open so it won't get any moisture in there. I may just do that, because I'll give up this paint, but I won't ruin this thing with a bunch of mold in it. But anyhow, yeah, we'll be back on tomorrow morning for sure. Maybe on later on today.